After 50 years of serving God in silence, Sister Helena was called to the Mother Superior's office. What she heard was devastating. "You are no longer fit to work. You need to leave the convent." At 72 years old, with no family, no money, no place to go. 5 decades of dedication, erased in 5 minutes. The other nuns watched in silence as she packed her few clothes into an old suitcase. But what no one imagined was that Sister Helena kept a secret about the Mother Superior. A secret that, when it came to light, transformed her expulsion into the biggest crisis that convent had ever faced. What did she know? And why did it outrage everyone? Comment: is this fair? I want to know what you would do in this situation. My name is Helena. I am 72 years old, and I have spent the last 50 years of my life serving God within the walls of the Our Lady of Grace convent. Half a century. 50 years waking up at 4 in the morning to pray the first prayers of the day. 50 years washing clothes, cleaning corridors, tending the garden, preparing meals. 50 years in silence, in obedience, in humility. I regret nothing. I chose this life at 22 when I first entered here. Young, full of dreams, wanting to serve God with body and soul. And that is exactly what I did. Every day, every hour, every minute, I gave myself completely. I never had children. I never built a family outside of here. My sisters in faith were my family. The convent was my home. God was my refuge. I never needed anything more. I never wanted anything more. My life had purpose. I was certain of that. Every morning I woke up grateful. Grateful for having a roof, for having food, for having my sisters by my side. Grateful to be able to serve, even when my body began to ache, even when my hands became shaky, even when my knees could no longer bear kneeling for hours during prayers. I continued, because that was what I had chosen. That was what I loved. But everything changed 3 months ago. It was on a Thursday morning. I remember because it was the day I always cleaned the chapel. I was finishing mopping the floor when Sister Beatrice came to me. She seemed nervous. She avoided looking directly into my eyes. "Sister Helena," she said in a low voice, almost a whisper, "the Mother Superior wants to speak with you. Now." My heart tightened. It was not common for the Mother Superior to call someone like that, suddenly, without warning. I dropped the floorcloth, wiped my hands on my apron, and followed Sister Beatrice to the Mother's office. Mother Veronica was sitting behind her dark wooden desk, with her hands crossed on the surface. She did not smile when I entered. She did not even greet me. "Sit down, Sister Helena," she said in a dry tone. I sat down. My heart was racing. I did not know what to expect. Had I done something wrong? Had I forgotten some task? Mother Veronica looked at me for a few seconds, as if she were evaluating every detail of my face. Then she spoke. "Sister Helena, you have been here for a long time." I nodded, not understanding where she was going with this. 50 years, Mother," I replied with a weak voice. "Yes, 50 years." She paused. "And we are grateful for everything you have done, for all your service." But that "but" cut through the air like a knife. I felt my stomach turn. "But it is time for you to rest." Rest? What did she mean by that? I kept looking at her, trying to understand. "Sister Helena," she continued, now in an even colder tone, "you are no longer able to continue working as before. Your hands shake, you are slow, and the convent needs people who can contribute in a more efficient way." Efficient. That word echoed in my head. Efficient. As if my entire life could be reduced to a matter of efficiency. As if 50 years of dedication, of sacrifice, of love meant nothing if I was no longer fast enough. I tried to speak, but my voice failed. Mother Veronica continued, "Therefore, we have decided that it is best for you to leave the convent. We will help you find another place, but you need to leave. Leave. Leave the convent. Leave my home. Leave everything I knew." I could not believe what I was hearing. I felt my eyes burning, but I held back the tears. I did not want to cry in front of her. "Mother," I managed to say with my voice trembling, "but I have nowhere to go. I have no family. I have no money. This is the only place I have. She sighed, as if she were tired of the conversation. "We will see what we can do. But the decision has been made, Sister Helena. You have 1 week to pack your things and leave. 1 week. 7 days to leave behind 50 years of my life." I got up from that chair as if I were carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I left the office without saying anything more, because there was nothing to say. The Mother Superior had decided, and I, as always, had to obey. I returned to my small room in the convent, a simple room with a narrow bed, an old wardrobe, and a small window overlooking the garden. I sat on the edge of the bed and, for the first time in many years, I felt absolute loneliness. I had dedicated my entire life to that place. I had washed the floor of that chapel hundreds of times. I had cooked thousands of meals in that kitchen. I had prayed beside those sisters every day. And now I was no longer useful. It was as if I had been discarded, used until the end, and when there was nothing more to take from me, thrown away. In the following days, I tried to talk to some of the other nuns. I wanted to understand if anyone else knew about this, if anyone had tried to defend me, but they all seemed distant. They avoided my gaze. Some murmured words of comfort, but none had the courage to question the Mother Superior's decision. I understood. They were also afraid of being next. After all, if after 50 years of service I could be expelled, any of them could be. Blind obedience had always been taught here, and questioning authority, that was unthinkable. I began to pack my things. I had very little. Some simple clothes, an old rosary that I had received as a gift when I entered the convent, a small Bible worn by time. That was all I owned, all that I had accumulated in half a century. I put everything inside an old suitcase with cracked leather that had been stored under the bed since I arrived here. I remembered when I had brought this suitcase with me, full of dreams and hopes. Now I was taking it away, empty of everything except sadness. On the 5th day, while I was in the garden for the last time, sitting on a wooden bench near the vegetable garden that I myself had helped plant decades ago, Sister Beatrice approached. She looked around to make sure no one was watching and sat down beside me. "Sister Helena," she said in a low voice, "I'm sorry for what is happening to you. This is not fair." I looked at her, surprised. It was the first time anyone had said that out loud. "Thank you, Sister Beatrice," I replied. She hesitated for a moment, as if she were thinking whether or not she should continue. Then she said something that shocked me. "Sister Helena, you need to know something. The Mother Superior is not doing this just because you are older." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Sister Beatrice looked around again, nervous. "She is hiding something serious, and I think she is afraid you might discover it." My heart began to beat faster. "Hiding what?" She took a deep breath. "Money. A lot of money. Donations that should be used for the convent, for renovations, to help the poor in the community, but she is embezzling it all." I was paralyzed. Embezzlement? Mother Veronica, the same woman who talked about humility and detachment in her sermons? "How do you know this?" I asked, still not believing it. "I saw documents in her office, false invoices, bank accounts in her name. She's enriching herself at the convent's expense, Sister Helena. And you have worked in donation administration for years. You have access to old records. If someone compares the numbers, they will notice that something is wrong. I think that is why she wants you out of here." That made sense. A horrible sense, but it made sense. I really had worked for years, organizing donation records, before my vision began to fail and I was transferred to other tasks. I knew every detail of the old files. If someone asked me to check something, I would know exactly where to look, and perhaps that was exactly what Mother Veronica feared. "Sister Beatrice," I said with a firm voice, "are you sure about this?" She nodded. "Absolutely. But be careful, Sister Helena. She is powerful. And if she discovers that you know—" She did not need to finish the sentence. I understood. That night, lying in my bed, I could not sleep. My mind was racing. Everything made sense now. It was not about my age. It was not about my ability to work. It was about silencing someone who could reveal the truth. And me, what should I do? Accept my expulsion in silence? Or fight for justice, even knowing that this could cost me everything? I tossed and turned all night, praying, asking for guidance. And when the sun rose, I had already made my decision. I was not going to leave in silence. While Sister Helena spent her last night at the convent, on the other side of the hallway, Mother Veronica was also awake. But not out of remorse or guilt. She was sitting in her private office, illuminated only by a small desk lamp, reviewing documents that she kept locked in a security drawer. They were bank statements, transfer receipts, invoices for services that were never performed, numbers that did not add up, money that disappeared from the convent's accounts and reappeared in personal accounts. Mother Veronica did not see herself as a criminal. In fact, she justified each action with a distorted logic that she had built over the years. The convent does not need so much, she murmured to herself as she checked the amounts. I work harder than everyone else. I deserve to be compensated. That was how she convinced herself. She transformed embezzlement into deservingness, corruption into personal justice. And the more time passed, the more she believed in her own narrative. It all started small. 5 years ago, when she took on the role of Mother Superior, she noticed that the donations were generous. Wealthy families from the region contributed monthly. There were funds for renovations, to help the needy, to maintain the convent structure. But Mother Veronica thought, why not a little for me? After all, I am the one who manages all of this. She started with small withdrawals, 500 reais here, 1,000 there. No one noticed. And when no one notices, temptation grows. Within a few years, the small withdrawals became systematic embezzlement. She created shell companies to issue false invoices. She claimed renovations that never happened. She said she was buying materials for the garden, new furniture for the nuns' wings, equipment for the kitchen. But none of that arrived. The money went straight to bank accounts in her name, accounts that she opened using the convent's documents, but that only she had access to. Over 5 years, Mother Veronica embezzled almost 500,000 reais. But there was a problem, a single obstacle that kept her awake some nights. Sister Helena, the old nun who had worked in donation administration for decades. Helena knew every detail of the old records. She knew how much came in, how much went out, where it went. And although her vision had worsened and she had been transferred to other functions, her memory was still sharp. If someone asked her to review the records, she might notice inconsistencies. She might start asking questions, and questions were dangerous. That was why Mother Veronica decided that Sister Helena needed to leave. She could not take the risk. She could not allow someone with so much knowledge to stay around. So she created the perfect excuse. Helena was old, slow, inefficient. It was time to rest. No one would question it. After all, she was the highest authority there. Her word was law. And so, with a simple 5-minute conversation, she eliminated the only person who represented a real threat to her scheme. On the morning of my last day, I woke up earlier than usual. It was still dark outside. I looked out my room window and saw the stars beginning to disappear from the sky. It was as if the universe was saying goodbye to me. I put on my habit for the last time, made my bed with the same care as always, and picked up my suitcase. It was time to leave. But before leaving, there was something I needed to do. I went down to the convent's archive. It was a small room in the basement, where all the old documents were stored. Donation records, receipts, correspondence. I had the key because for years I was responsible for organizing all of that. I opened the door slowly, to not make noise, and entered. The smell of old, musty paper invaded my nostrils. I turned on a small flashlight that I had brought with me and began to search. I knew exactly what I was looking for. Donation records from the last 5 years. I wanted to compare the amounts that came in with the amounts that were spent. If Sister Beatrice was right, there would be inconsistencies, and I would find them. I spent almost an hour there, leafing through folders, writing down numbers in an old notebook that I had brought with me. And the more I looked, the more evident it became. There were enormous donations registered, but the expenses, they did not match. Renovations that never happened, purchases that never arrived, everything perfectly documented on paper, but completely false in reality. My heart was racing. I had the proof that Mother Veronica was stealing, proof that my expulsion was not about my age or my ability. It was about silence. She wanted to silence me, but I would not be silenced. I took the most important documents, stored them inside my suitcase, and went back up to the ground floor. The sun was beginning to rise. The other nuns would soon wake up for morning prayers, but I would not be there. I walked to the convent exit. My suitcase was heavy, but not because of its contents. It was from the weight of 50 years being left behind. I stopped at the main door and looked back one last time. That place had been my entire life. Every corridor, every stone, every tree in the garden, everything had a memory. But now it also had a stain, a dark stain of corruption and betrayal, and I was not going to let that pass. When Sister Helena crossed the convent gate for the last time, a strange sensation enveloped her. It was freedom mixed with loss. She did not know where to go. She had no family. She did not have enough money to rent a place. But she had something more valuable at that moment, the truth. And the truth, when revealed, has the power to destroy even the most solid foundations. Helena walked to the small town square, where there was a wooden bench under a tree. She sat there, with her suitcase beside her, and took out the documents she had taken. She looked at each page carefully. She knew she needed to act quickly. Mother Veronica would soon discover that the documents were missing. And when she found out, she would do everything to recover them or to discredit Helena. She needed a plan. That was when she remembered something. The bishop of the diocese. He visited the convent once a year, and he always seemed like a fair man, concerned about the integrity of the religious institutions under his supervision. If she could speak with him, show him the documents, perhaps there would be a chance for justice. But how to reach him? She had no phone, no way to schedule a formal audience. She would have to go personally to the diocesan curia in the neighboring city. And that meant a bus trip that she barely had money to pay for. But Helena was determined. She counted the few coins she had saved over the years. It would be enough for the fare, but only one way. She did not think twice. She got up from the bench, took her suitcase, and walked to the bus stop. Half an hour later, she was on her way to the neighboring city, with the documents pressed against her chest, as if they were the most precious thing in the world. And at that moment, they really were. Meanwhile, back at the convent, Mother Veronica went down to the archive. She had the habit of checking the room once a week, just to make sure everything was in order. But when she opened the door, her heart almost stopped. Folders were out of place, documents scattered, and worse still, the main evidence of the embezzlement was missing. She turned everything upside down, searching frantically. But there was no doubt. Someone had taken them, and she knew exactly who. "Helena," she whispered through clenched teeth, with a mixture of anger and panic. That old woman had stolen the documents. And if she showed them to someone, if she went to the ecclesiastical authorities, or, worse yet, to the police, everything would collapse. Years of scheming, of accumulated wealth, of carefully built reputation, everything would crumble. Mother Veronica clenched her fists tightly. She could not let that happen. She ran up to her office and grabbed the phone. She called a lawyer she knew, someone who had helped in delicate situations before. "I need you to solve a problem for me," she said with a tense voice. "A former nun is trying to incriminate me with false documents. I need you to discredit her. Do whatever is necessary." On the other end of the line, the lawyer listened in silence. Then, with a cold and professional tone, he replied, "Understood. I will take care of it." The war was declared. On one side, an elderly nun, alone, without resources, but with the truth in her hands. On the other, a powerful, influential Mother Superior, willing to do anything to protect her secrets. What neither of them knew was that this battle was about to attract the attention of many more people than they imagined. And when the truth finally came to light, nothing would be as it was before. The bus rattled for almost 2 hours until it reached the neighboring city. I was sitting in the back, clutching my suitcase against my chest, looking out the window as the landscape changed. Green fields, simple houses, small churches. Everything reminded me of a life I was leaving behind, but there was no room for regret now. I had made my decision, and I would not turn back. When the bus finally stopped at the terminal, I got off carefully. My legs were tired, and the suitcase weighed more than it should. I asked a man on the street how to get to the diocesan curia. He pointed to a long street and said it was about 20 minutes on foot. I thanked him and started walking. Each step hurt. My knees were no longer what they were decades ago, but I continued, because physical pain was nothing compared to the pain of injustice. The diocesan curia was an old, imposing building with architecture that commanded respect. I climbed the steps slowly and pushed the heavy wooden door. Inside, there was a wide hallway with marble floors and paintings of old bishops on the walls. A secretary was sitting behind a desk, typing something on the computer. She looked up when she saw me. "Can I help you?" she asked, with a formal, almost cold tone. "I need to speak with the bishop," I replied, trying to sound firm. She looked me up and down, assessing. I knew how I must look. An old nun, with an old suitcase, without an appointment. It was not exactly the type of visit they expected. "The bishop is busy," she said, returning to typing. "If you want to schedule an audience, you need to fill out a form and wait. It could take a few weeks." A few weeks. I did not have a few weeks. Mother Veronica must have already discovered that the documents were missing. She must already be taking measures to protect herself. If I waited, it would be too late. "Please," I said, with a softer but determined voice. "It is urgent. I have information about irregularities in a convent. I need to speak with the bishop today." The secretary sighed, as if she were tired of hearing urgent requests. "I will see what I can do. Sit over there." She pointed to a wooden bench in the hallway. I sat down, placing the suitcase on my lap, and waited. Minutes turned into half an hour. Half an hour turned into an hour. I was starting to lose hope when the secretary finally called me. "The bishop can see you for 10 minutes. Follow me." My heart raced. 10 minutes. I had only 10 minutes to explain 50 years of dedication, an unjust expulsion, and an embezzlement scheme involving hundreds of thousands of riets. I followed the secretary down a hallway to a large room with a mahogany desk and a bookshelf full of religious books. Behind the desk was Bishop Dom Fernando, a man of about 60 years, grey hair, serious look. "Sit down, sister," he said, pointing to the chair in front of the desk. I sat down, placing the suitcase on the floor beside me. "The secretary told me you have something urgent to report. What is it about?" I took a deep breath. It was now or never. "My name is Sister Helena. I spent the last 50 years at the Our Lady of Grace convent. I was expelled a week ago by the Mother Superior, who claimed that I was no longer fit to work, but the truth is different. She expelled me because I have access to information that can incriminate her." The bishop frowned. "Incriminate her? Of what?" I opened my suitcase and took out the documents I had taken from the archive. I placed them on the desk. "Embezzlement, Dom Fernando. Mother Veronica has been embezzling donations from the convent for years. She created shell companies, issued false invoices, claimed renovations that never happened. I have the proof here." Dom Fernando picked up the documents and began to flip through them. His eyes scanned the numbers, the dates, the names. The more he read, the more serious his face became. "This is very serious," he murmured. "If what you are saying is true, we are talking about a serious crime, not only against the church, but against the law." He looked at me intently. "Sister Helena, are you absolutely certain of what you are telling me?" "Absolutely, Dom Fernando. I worked in donation administration for decades. I know every detail of the records. These documents do not lie." Mother Veronica has been stealing from the church for years. The bishop took a deep breath, putting the papers back on the desk. Very well, I will open an internal investigation immediately, but I need you to understand that this will take time. We need to verify each piece of information, confront those involved, follow proper procedures. I understand, I replied, but please act quickly. Mother Veronica is powerful. She has connections. If she discovers that I came here, she will try to hide the evidence or discredit me. Dom Fernando nodded. I will act with discretion. And you? Where are you staying now? I lowered my eyes. Nowhere, Dom Fernando. I have nowhere to go. He remained silent for a few seconds, thoughtful. Then he picked up the phone on the desk and dialed a number. Sister Cecilia, this is Bishop Fernando. I need you to prepare a room at the shelter house. I have a sister who needs a place to stay temporarily. He hung up the phone and looked at me. The shelter house is a place we maintain for religious people in vulnerable situations. You can stay there while the investigation is ongoing. Tears filled my eyes. For the first time in days, I felt a bit of relief. Someone was listening to me. Someone was helping me. Thank you, Dom Fernando. Thank you very much. He nodded. Do not thank me yet, Sister Helena. The path ahead will be difficult. Mother Veronica will not accept these accusations without fighting, and she has resources to defend herself. He was right. But I also had something she did not have, the truth. And the truth, no matter how much they tried to suffocate it, always found a way to come to light. While Sister Helena left the diocesan curia with an address written on a piece of paper on the other side of the city, Mother Veronica was meeting in her office with the lawyer she had hired. Dr. Augusto was a tall man, in an impeccable suit, with a cold and calculating look. He was sitting in front of the mother's desk, listening attentively as she explained the situation. She took documents from the archive, Mother Veronica said with a tense voice. Documents that, if misinterpreted, can harm me. I need you to find a way to invalidate anything she presents. Dr. Augusto crossed his fingers, thoughtful. I understand. And are you sure she will try to use these documents against you? I am absolutely sure. Helena is not someone who acts on impulse. If she took the documents, it is because she intends to use them. She has probably already gone to someone, perhaps the diocese, perhaps even the police. The lawyer nodded. Very well. In that case, we need to act preemptively. I will prepare a narrative that Helena is mentally unstable, that she was removed for mental health issues, not for physical incapacity. That will discredit anything she says. Mother Veronica smiled, a cold smile without warmth. Perfect. Do whatever is necessary. Dr. Augusto stood up, taking his briefcase. I will start immediately, but I need you to provide me with as much information as possible about her. Medical history, recent behaviors, anything we can use. Mother Veronica nodded. You will have everything. When the lawyer left, she was alone in the office, looking out the window. Outside, the convent garden was peaceful. The other nuns walked in silence, fulfilling their daily tasks, oblivious to the storm that was forming. Mother Veronica clenched her fists. She had built all of that, her position, her power, her wealth. And she was not going to allow an old nun to destroy everything. But what Mother Veronica did not know was that the wheels of justice were already in motion, and once they started turning, it would be very difficult to stop them. The shelter house was a simple but welcoming place, a two-story building painted white with a small garden in front. When I arrived, I was greeted by Sister Cecilia, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile and gentle eyes. She showed me the room where I would stay. It was small, with a bed, a wardrobe, and a window overlooking the garden. Nothing very different from what I had at the convent, but here at least I did not feel the weight of rejection. Make yourself at home, Sister Helena, said Sister Cecilia. If you need anything, I will be downstairs. I thanked her, and she left, closing the door gently. I sat on the edge of the bed, and for the first time in days, I allowed myself to cry. They were not tears of sadness, but of relief. Relief for having found someone who believed in me. Relief for having a roof over my head. Relief for not being completely alone. In the following days, I tried to maintain the routine I always had. I woke up early, prayed, helped with household tasks. Sister Cecilia did not pressure me to do anything, but I could not stay still. Work had always been my way of praying, of being grateful, of feeling useful. And even now, expelled and rejected, I still wanted to serve. It was on a Tuesday morning while I was helping in the kitchen that Sister Cecilia came to me with a worried expression. "Sister Helena, Bishop Fernando called. He wants to speak with you. It is urgent." My heart raced. Urgent? What could have happened? I dried my hands on my apron and followed Sister Cecilia to the small office where there was a telephone. I picked up the receiver with trembling hands. "Hello?" Dom Fernando's voice was serious, tense. "Sister Helena, I need to inform you of something. Mother Veronica has presented a formal defense against your accusations. She claims that you are suffering from mental problems and that the documents you brought were misinterpreted due to your health condition." I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. Mental problems? She was trying to make me look crazy? "But that is not true, Dom Fernando. I am perfectly fine. The documents are clear. There is nothing to interpret. They are concrete evidence." He sighed on the other end of the line. "I believe you, Sister Helena, but she brought a lawyer, and this lawyer is preparing a case to discredit everything you said. They claim that you were removed for health reasons, not for physical incapacity." I gripped the phone tightly. I was trembling with anger. How dare she do this to me? After 50 years of dedication, she was painting me as crazy just to protect her crimes. "What can we do?" I asked, trying to control my voice. "I am working on it," replied Dom Fernando. "I will hire a forensic accountant to analyze the documents. If they confirm what you said, we will have a solid basis to proceed, but it will take time. Time, always time. And while time passed, Mother Veronica had complete freedom to build her defense, to manipulate the narrative, to destroy my reputation." I hung up the phone and stood there, standing in the middle of the office, feeling an enormous emptiness in my chest. It was as if I were fighting a giant, and I had no weapons. But then, something inside me ignited, a small flame, but persistent. I could not give up, not after having come so far. If Mother Veronica wanted a war, I would give her a war, but not with lies or manipulations, with the truth. And the truth always finds a way to shine, no matter how dark the night. Meanwhile, at the convent, the situation was getting tense. News that there was an ongoing investigation began to leak among the nuns. No one knew exactly what was being investigated, but rumors ran wild. Some said it was about financial irregularities. Others thought it was about embezzlement of donations, and everyone wondered who had reported it. Mother Veronica called a meeting with all the nuns in the chapel. She was standing at the altar with a serious, almost solemn expression. "Sisters," she began with a firm voice, "you must be hearing rumors about an alleged investigation. I want to clarify that all of this is nothing more than an attempt at defamation by someone who was removed from here for health reasons." She did not mention Sister Helena's name, but everyone knew who she was talking about. "This person," continued Mother Veronica, "unfortunately developed mental problems in recent years, and now is spreading lies about me and about the convent. But I want you to know that I am taking all legal measures to protect our institution and our reputation." The nuns listened in silence. Some seemed relieved, others skeptical, and some, like Sister Beatrice, had a look of absolute disbelief. She knew the truth. She knew that Mother Veronica was lying. But what could she do? Confront the Mother Superior publicly? She would be expelled immediately. So, she did what many others do when faced with injustice. She remained silent. But silence has a weight, and the more time passes, the heavier it becomes. 2 weeks later, the forensic accountant hired by Dom Fernando presented his report. He had analyzed every document that Sister Helena had provided, cross-referencing information, verifying dates, tracing transactions, and the conclusion was devastating. There was clear evidence of embezzlement. Shell companies had been created. False invoices had been issued. Money that should have been used for the convent had been diverted to personal accounts. Dom Fernando read the report with a grave expression. There were no more doubts. Sister Helena was right. Mother Veronica was guilty. He picked up the phone and called the canonical law office of the diocese. We need to initiate a formal process against Mother Veronica immediately, and we also need to involve civil authorities. This is not just an internal church matter. It is a crime. As legal proceedings began to unfold, Mother Veronica still believed she had control over the situation. She had hired the best lawyer money could buy. She had built a convincing narrative that Sister Helena was a mentally unstable woman. She had pressured the other nuns to remain loyal. But what she did not know was that truth is like water. It can be contained for a while, but eventually it finds a crack. And when that happens, it does not stop until it floods everything. It was on a Friday morning that 2 investigators from the diocese arrived at the convent. They asked to speak with Mother Veronica in private. She received them in the office, still confident, still believing she could work around everything. "How can I help you?" she asked with a forced smile. "Mother Veronica," said one of the investigators, a middle-aged man with a folder in his hand. "We are here to inform you that the diocese has opened a formal investigation process against you for suspected embezzlement. We need you to provide us with complete access to the convent's financial records for the last 5 years. The smile disappeared from Mother Veronica's face. She went pale. "This is absurd. I have already explained that these accusations are false. They are the product of the disturbed mind of a former nun who was removed for health problems." The investigator opened the folder and took out the forensic accountant's report. "With all due respect, Mother, we have accounting evidence that indicates otherwise, and this evidence was verified by an independent professional. So I will ask again, can you provide us with access to the financial records?" Mother Veronica felt the ground collapse beneath her feet. There was no more way to escape. There was no more way to manipulate. The truth was there, printed in that report, irrefutable and devastating. She tried to maintain her composure. I will need to speak with my lawyer before providing anything." "That is your right," replied the investigator. "But know that from now on, you are suspended from your duties as Mother Superior until the investigation is concluded. A temporary administrator will be appointed to take over the convent." That was the final blow. Suspended. Everything she had worked for, all the power she had accumulated, was being taken from her in a matter of minutes. When the investigators left, Mother Veronica was alone in the office. For the first time in years, she felt fear, real fear. Not fear of losing money or reputation, but fear of facing the consequences of her actions. And for the first time, she understood that there was no turning back. On the other side of the city, at the shelter house, Sister Helena received the news by phone. Dom Fernando called personally to inform her that the investigation was progressing and that Mother Veronica had been suspended. "You were right, Sister Helena. Your accusations have been confirmed. Justice is being done." I held the phone with both hands, feeling tears streaming down my face. They were not tears of revenge or joy. They were tears of relief. Relief for having fought, for not having given up, for having trusted in the truth, even when everything seemed lost. "Thank you, Dom Fernando," I managed to say with a choked voice. "Thank you for believing in me. You were brave, Sister Helena, very brave, and the church owes you an apology for what you went through." I hung up the phone and sat in the garden of the shelter house. The sun was rising, illuminating the flowers, the trees, everything around me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt peace. In the days following Mother Veronica's suspension, the convent entered a state of shock. The nuns did not know exactly what was happening, but the tension was palpable. Whispers traveled through the corridors. Nervous glances were exchanged during meals. And everyone wondered, what would come next? Sister Beatrice was one of the first to understand the gravity of the situation. She had seen the documents. She knew that Mother Veronica was involved in something serious. And now, with the official suspension, it was clear that the truth was coming to light. But instead of relief, she felt fear. Fear that somehow she too was guilty for having remained silent for so long. It was on a rainy afternoon that Sister Beatrice made a decision. She could no longer carry that weight alone. She needed to speak. She needed to testify. She took her simple coat and left the convent without telling anyone. She walked to the bus stop, took the first one that passed, and went straight to the shelter house. She needed to see Sister Helena. She needed to ask for forgiveness. When she arrived, she asked at the reception to speak with Sister Helena. Sister Cecilia came to my room and told me there was a visitor. "Who is it?" I asked, surprised. "A nun. She says she is from the convent." My heart tightened. Could it be someone sent by Mother Veronica? I went down the stairs slowly, and when I saw who it was, I felt a mix of relief and apprehension. It was Sister Beatrice. She was standing in the visiting room with red eyes, as if she had cried all the way there. When she saw me, she came running and hugged me. "Sister Helena, forgive me. Forgive me for not having done anything, for having remained silent. I knew what was happening, and I did not have the courage to speak." I hugged her back, feeling her tears wet my shoulder. "You do not need to ask for forgiveness, Sister Beatrice. I know you were afraid. Everyone was. But I should have been braver," she said, pulling away a little and wiping her tears. "I should have defended you when she expelled you. I should have spoken about what I knew. But I was a coward." I held her hands. "What matters is that you are here now, and there is still time to do the right thing." She nodded, still sobbing. "I want to testify. I want to tell everything I saw, everything I heard. I can no longer live with this weight on my conscience." That was a turning point, because Sister Beatrice was not just another witness. She was still inside the convent. She had access to updated information, and her courage in coming to me, in admitting her omission and in offering to testify, was a sign that things were changing. I immediately called Dom Fernando and told him about Sister Beatrice's visit. He asked to speak with her. I handed her the phone. Sister Beatrice spoke for almost 20 minutes, telling everything, about the conversations she had heard, about the documents she had seen in Mother Veronica's office, about the veiled threats that the mother made to keep all the nuns under control. When she finished, Dom Fernando thanked her and asked her to go to the diocesan curia the next day to formalize her testimony. She agreed. That night, as Sister Beatrice returned to the convent, something unexpected happened. Other nuns began to seek her out. They had heard rumors that she had left to speak with Sister Helena, and they wanted to know more. "Is it true that Mother Veronica embezzled money?" asked Sister Teresa, one of the youngest. "Is it true that Sister Helena was expelled unjustly?" Sister Beatrice took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Yes," she said with a firm voice. "It is all true, and I am going to testify about it tomorrow." The silence that followed was heavy, but then, one by one, other nuns began to speak. "I also saw strange things," said Sister Clara. "Renovations that were paid for, but never happened. And those new pieces of furniture she said she had bought for the refectory," added Sister Anna. "They never arrived." It was as if a dam had burst. Years of silence, of fear, of blind obedience were being broken, and the more they spoke, the more they realized they were not alone, that they had all seen something, that they had all noticed something, but none had had the courage to question, until now. Meanwhile, at her house, where she was living temporarily after the suspension, Mother Veronica received a call from her lawyer. "We have a problem," said Dr. Augusto with a tense voice. "One of the nuns from the convent is going to testify against you, and from what I heard, others are also considering doing the same." Mother Veronica felt panic rising in her throat. Who? Who is going to testify? Sister Beatrice, and possibly others. She clenched her fists tightly. Beatrice. That girl was always weak, always influenceable. "What can we do?" she asked, trying to control the desperation in her voice. "Honestly, very little. If several witnesses confirm the accusations, there is no way to deny it. The best we can do now is negotiate. Maybe we can reduce the penalties if you cooperate. Cooperate. Admit guilt. That was unthinkable for Mother Veronica. She had spent years building her image, her power, her authority, and now she was being advised to simply surrender? No, she said with a firm voice. I will not admit anything. We will fight to the end. Dr. Augusto sighed on the other end of the line. As you wish. But know that on this path you may lose everything. And he was right, but Mother Veronica was too proud to admit it, too proud to repent, and that pride would be her ruin. The next day, Sister Beatrice went to the diocesan curia and formalized her testimony. She told everything, every detail, every conversation, every document she had seen, and when she finished, Dom Fernando thanked her and said, "You did the right thing, Sister Beatrice. I know it was difficult, but the truth needs to be told, no matter the cost." In the following weeks, other nuns also came to testify, some in person, others through letters, all with the same message. Mother Veronica had abused her position. She had manipulated, she had stolen, and she had silenced anyone who dared to question. The diocese's official investigation progressed quickly. Forensic accountants were hired, documents were analyzed, witnesses were heard, and each day the evidence against Mother Veronica accumulated. There was no longer any doubt. She was guilty. But something even more important was happening. The nuns of the convent were rediscovering their voices. They were realizing that obedience does not mean silence in the face of injustice, that humility does not mean accepting abuse, that serving God does not mean serving corrupt leaders. I, at the shelter house, followed everything from afar, but with a warm heart. It was not about revenge. It never was. It was about justice. It was about restoring the dignity that was taken from me. It was about ensuring that no other nun would go through what I went through. One afternoon, while I was in the garden of the shelter house watering the flowers, Sister Cecilia came to me with an envelope. "A letter arrived for you, Sister Helena." I took the envelope with trembling hands. It was from the diocese. I opened it slowly and read. It was an official letter signed by Dom Fernando, informing me that the investigation against Mother Veronica had been concluded. She was found guilty of embezzlement, abuse of authority, and fraud. She would be permanently removed from her duties and would face criminal charges for her actions. In addition, the letter said that I was being invited to return to the convent, if I wished, with full honors and a formal apology from the diocese. I felt tears streaming down my face. They were not tears of sadness, they were tears of victory, of justice, of redemption. But I knew that the decision to return or not was mine. And for the first time in 50 years, I had the freedom to choose. I spent the entire night thinking about the letter, returning to the convent. It was everything I had dreamed of during those first weeks of loneliness and rejection, returning home, returning to my routine, returning to the sisters I loved. But now, with the real possibility before me, I was not sure if that was what I wanted. The convent I knew had changed, or perhaps I had changed. I had seen the corruption that hid behind the prayers. I had felt the pain of betrayal. I had experienced the loneliness of abandonment. And despite everything, I had found my own voice, a voice that for 50 years I had silenced in the name of obedience. Did I want to return to a place where that voice could be silenced again? The next morning, I asked Sister Cecilia to call Dom Fernando. I needed to speak with him personally before making my decision. An hour later, I was once again sitting in the office at the diocesan curia in the same chair where it had all begun. Dom Fernando received me with a warm smile. "Sister Helena, I am glad to see you again. I received your message. I imagine you want to talk about the letter." "Yes, Dom Fernando. I do not know if I want to return." He nodded, understanding. "It is perfectly natural to feel that way. You went through a terrible ordeal, and there is no pressure for you to return if you do not feel comfortable. I took a deep breath. It is not that I do not miss the convent, I do. I miss the sisters, the routine, the prayers, but I am afraid that nothing has really changed. Afraid that another person like Mother Veronica might take over and that everything will repeat itself. Dom Fernando folded his hands on the desk, thoughtful. I understand your concern, and it is valid, but I want you to know that we are implementing significant changes. The convent will now have more rigorous supervision, regular financial audits, and more importantly, we are creating reporting channels so that situations like this are never silenced again. That gave me a bit of hope, but there was still something bothering me. And the other nuns? How did they react when they learned the truth? Dom Fernando sighed. It was difficult for them. Many felt betrayed, others felt guilty for not having noticed, but most are relieved, and many specifically asked for you to return. Tears filled my eyes. They wanted me to return. After everything, they still wanted me. Sister Helena, continued Dom Fernando, you do not need to decide now. Take the time you need. But know that you have a place there, and more than that, you have the respect of all of us. What you did was brave. You saved that convent. I left the diocesan curia with a slightly lighter heart, but still undecided. I returned to the shelter house and spent the following days praying, reflecting, talking with Sister Cecilia, and it was she who gave me the advice that changed everything. Sister Helena, she said one afternoon while we were having tea in the garden, you are afraid to return because you think you might lose the freedom you found here, but the truth is that freedom is within you. It does not matter where you are. She was right. The freedom I had found was not about the place where I live. It was about the courage to speak the truth, the courage to fight for justice, the courage not to accept the unacceptable. And I could take that freedom with me anywhere, even back to the convent. 2 days later, I called Dom Fernando and said I was ready to return, but with one condition. I wanted to speak with all the nuns first. I wanted to look each one in the eyes and say what was in my heart. He agreed and scheduled a meeting for the following week. Meanwhile, Mother Veronica was facing her own battle. The diocese's investigation had turned into a criminal proceeding. She was formally charged with fraud, embezzlement, and ideological falsity. Her lawyer was still trying to negotiate a deal, but the public prosecutor's office was not interested. There was too much evidence. Too many witnesses. There was no way to escape. Mother Veronica, who had always had control over everything and everyone, was now completely without control. Her reputation was destroyed, her assets were frozen, and she faced the real possibility of imprisonment. But what hurt most was not the loss of power or money. It was the judgmental looks of people. It was knowing that wherever she went, she would be known as the corrupt nun, the mother who betrayed her vocation. In a desperate attempt to regain some sympathy, she gave an interview to a local newspaper, claiming that she had been the victim of a conspiracy, that the accusations were exaggerated, that she had only committed small administrative errors. But no one believed her. The evidence was too clear, and the public, who might have once felt pity, now felt only indignation. On the day of the meeting at the convent, I arrived early. My heart was racing. It had been almost 2 months since I had left there. 2 months that felt like 2 years. When I entered through the main gate, I saw some nuns in the garden. They stopped what they were doing and looked at me. For a moment there was silence. Then Sister Teresa, the youngest, began to walk toward me, and then another, and another. And before I realized it, I was being hugged by all of them. Sister Helena, forgive us, said one. We are so sorry, said another. We should have done something, said a third. I hugged each one, feeling tears streaming down my face. They were not tears of sadness, but of reconciliation, of healing, of hope. We all entered the chapel where Dom Fernando was waiting. He opened the meeting with a prayer and then gave me the floor. I stood up, looked at each face, each pair of eyes watching me, and began to speak. Sisters, I am here today, not as someone seeking revenge or resentment. I am here as someone who believes in truth, in justice, and in the power of forgiveness. What happened here was painful, for me, for you, for all of us. But it was also a lesson. We learned that obedience does not mean accepting injustice, that humility does not mean remaining silent in the face of abuse, that serving God means, above all, defending the truth, even when it costs everything. I hold no grudge against any of you. I know you were afraid. I know you were in a difficult position, but now we have the opportunity to start over, to build a convent based not on fear, but on trust, not on blind obedience, but on truth. When I finished speaking, the silence in the chapel was profound. Then Sister Beatrice stood up. Sister Helena, on behalf of all of us, I ask for forgiveness, and I thank you for your courage. You taught us what it truly means to serve God. One by one, the other nuns stood up and applauded. It was not an applause of celebration, but of respect, of gratitude, of recognition. Dom Fernando closed the meeting with a blessing and announced that a new Mother Superior would be chosen soon, this time with a more transparent process and with the participation of the nuns in the decision. It was a new beginning for all of us. That night, I slept in my old room, the same narrow bed, the same window overlooking the garden. But everything seemed different, because I was different. I was no longer the silent nun who accepted everything without questioning. I was the nun who had faced injustice, who had fought, who had won. And as I closed my eyes, I thanked God, not for having spared me from pain, but for having given me strength to go through it, because it was in pain that I discovered who I really was. The months that followed were of reconstruction, not just of the convent, but of all of us. A new Mother Superior was elected, Mother Clara, a 55-year-old woman, known for her humility and transparency. She implemented immediate changes, monthly meetings where all the nuns could express their opinions, quarterly audits of the finances, and most importantly, a confidential reporting channel for any irregularities. I returned to my routine, but with a difference. Now I was heard. My suggestions were considered, my experience was valued. And for the first time in 50 years, I felt that I was not just a silent servant, but an active part of the community. Sister Beatrice became my closest companion. We both had gone through something that the others did not fully understand. The guilt of having remained silent, the courage to finally speak, the weight of carrying the truth. We spent hours talking in the garden, reflecting on what had happened and on how we could ensure it would never happen again. "You know, Sister Helena," she said on a sunny afternoon while we were tending the vegetable garden, "I used to think that being a good nun meant just obeying, doing what I was told without questioning. But now I understand that is not virtue, it is cowardice," I agreed. "True obedience is following what is right, even when it is difficult, even when it goes against those in power, because in the end, we do not answer to human leaders, we answer to God." While the convent healed, Mother Veronica faced her sentence. The criminal trial was quick. The evidence was irrefutable. Witnesses were heard. Documents were presented. And in the end, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. In addition, she was ordered to return all the embezzled money, more than 500,000 rees, which would be used to renovate the convent and help needy families in the community. When the sentence was read, Mother Veronica showed no emotion, but those who were in the courtroom said her eyes were empty, as if she had finally understood the magnitude of what she had done, as if, for the first time, she had looked at herself without the masks of justification she had built. I did not go to court. I did not want to see her being convicted, not because I felt sorry, but because it was not about revenge. It was about justice, and justice had already been done. I did not need to see her fall to feel restored, but a few weeks later I received a letter. It was from Mother Veronica, written from prison. I was surprised. I did not expect her to contact me. I opened the envelope with trembling hands and began to read. Sister Helena, I know I have no right to write to you. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. But I need to tell you something I did not have the courage to say before. You were right about everything. I became something I never thought I would be. When I entered religious life, I had the same dreams as you. I wanted to serve God. I wanted to do good. But somewhere along the way, I lost that. I began to believe I deserved more, that I was special, that the rules did not apply to me. Each small embezzlement I made, each small lie I told, took me deeper. And when I realized it, I was already so involved that I could not go back anymore, or maybe I did not want to, because admitting I was wrong would mean losing everything I had built. You took everything from me, Sister Helena, my power, my reputation, my freedom, but in doing so you also gave me something, the truth, and the truth, no matter how painful it is liberating. Now, for the first time in years, I no longer need to pretend. I no longer need to justify. I can simply look at myself and acknowledge, I was wrong. I do not expect your forgiveness. I do not deserve it. But I hope you know that your courage changed not only the convent but also me, and for that, I thank you. I finished reading the letter with tears in my eyes. They were not tears of sadness, but of something deeper, compassion. Because in the end, Mother Veronica was also human. She had also failed. She had also lost her way. And now, in prison, she was trying to find herself again. I kept the letter in a drawer. I did not respond. Not yet. But one day, perhaps, I would write back. Not to forgive her, because forgiveness was not something she could ask for, or I could give. It was something between her and God. But to say that I understood, that we are all capable of losing ourselves, and that we all deserve the chance to find ourselves again. At the convent, life continued. The wounds were healing, but the scars remained, and it was good that they remained, because scars remind us of what we went through. They remind us not to repeat the same mistakes. They remind us that we survived. On a Sunday morning during Mass, Mother Clara made an announcement. Sisters, I know the last few months have been difficult for all of us, but I want you to see this not as an ending, but as a new beginning. We have the opportunity to build something better, something based on truth, transparency, and mutual respect. She paused and looked at me. And I want to publicly thank Sister Helena. Your courage saved us. Your honesty taught us. And your presence here reminds us that we should never be afraid to do what is right, no matter the cost. All the nuns turned to me and began to applaud. I felt my face flush. I was not used to being the center of attention, but at the same time I felt a warmth in my chest, a feeling that finally I had been seen, not just as a servant, but as a person, with a voice, with value, with dignity. That afternoon, as I walked through the garden, Sister Teresa, the youngest, came to me. Sister Helena, may I ask you a question? Of course, I replied. How did you find the courage to do what you did, to confront someone so powerful? I stopped and looked at her. I saw in her eyes the same doubt I had felt so many times, the same insecurity, the same question, am I strong enough? Sister Teresa, I began, courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite it. I was terrified when I left here. I was alone, without money, without a place to go. But I had something more valuable. I had the truth. And the truth, I continued, does not need power or money to shine. It shines on its own. All we need to do is have it and protect it. And when we do that, when we refuse to silence it, it becomes our greatest weapon. Sister Teresa smiled. Thank you, Sister Helena. I think I understand now. And as she walked away, I knew I had planted a seed of courage, of justice, of truth, and that seed would grow and bear fruit. And others in the future would learn that they do not need to accept the unacceptable, that they do not need to silence their voice, that they do not need to be afraid to do what is right. The months turned into a year, and with that year, the convent was completely transformed. Not just in structure, with the renovations that were finally done using the money returned by Mother Veronica, but in spirit. There was more transparency, more dialogue, more respect, and above all, more truth. I turned 73 in March, 1 year after my expulsion, 1 year after being discarded as if I were worth nothing. And as I looked around, seeing the younger nuns laughing in the garden, seeing Mother Clara leading with humility, seeing Sister Beatrice tending the flowers we planted together, I knew it had been worth it. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of fear, it had been worth it. But the story did not end there, because stories like this never really end. They spread. They multiply, they inspire others. One day, I received a visit from a young woman. She was not a nun. She was a journalist. She had heard about what happened at the convent and wanted to do a story. "Sister Helena," she said, sitting with me in the garden, "your story needs to be told. It needs to reach people, because it is not just about you. It is about how many others are going through the same thing in silence." I hesitated. I did not want exposure. I did not want to be seen as a hero. But she insisted, "It is not about being a hero. It is about being a witness that it is possible to fight, that it is possible to win, that the truth always prevails." And I agreed. The story was published a few weeks later in a major regional newspaper. It told the whole story: my expulsion, Mother Veronica's corruption, the investigation, the sentence, and my return. The response was immediate. Dozens of people reached out, some to congratulate, others to tell their own stories of abuse and injustice in religious institutions. And it was there that I realized something important. My story was not unique. It was just one among thousands, perhaps millions, stories of people who were silenced, who were discredited, who were punished for daring to tell the truth. But every story that is told, every voice that is heard, every injustice that is exposed, contributes to a greater change. The diocese, seeing the response, decided to create a training program for religious leaders on ethics, transparency, and accountability. Dom Fernando invited me to give the first testimony. "Sister Helena, you lived this firsthand. Your voice has weight, has authority. Please come speak to our future leaders." And I went. I stood before a room full of priests, nuns, and deacons in training and told my story, not to glorify myself, but to warn. "Leadership is not about power," I said. "It is about service. And when we confuse the two, when we begin to believe we deserve privileges, that we are above the rules, that our position gives us special rights, that is when we begin to fall." Mother Veronica did not wake up one day and decide to be corrupt. It was a gradual process, small justifications, small deviations, small lies, until it became something big, something uncontrollable, something that destroyed not only her, but everyone around her. "And you," I looked at each face in the room, "you are about to assume leadership positions, positions of trust, and I beg you, do not let power corrupt you. Do not let authority blind you. Do not let pride destroy you, because when you fall, you do not fall alone. You take with you the faith of many." The silence in the room was profound, and when I finished speaking, one of the young seminarians raised his hand. "Sister Helena, how can we ensure we do not become like Mother Veronica?" I smiled, a sad but hopeful smile. "Never stop questioning yourselves. Never stop listening to criticism. Never stop being accountable. And above all, never believe you are above the truth." I returned to the convent that afternoon with a full heart. I felt I was making a difference, not just for me, but for future generations. And that was more than I could ever have imagined when I left that gate, lonely and rejected, more than a year ago. Meanwhile, Mother Veronica was serving her sentence in prison. I learned from Dom Fernando that she was participating in rehabilitation programs. that she was working in the prison library, that she was, for the first time in years, living simply, without luxuries, without privileges, just as one more among many. I still kept the letter she had sent me, and sometimes when I was alone, I reread it, not out of resentment but out of compassion, because deep down I understood. I understood how easy it is to get lost, how easy it is to justify, how easy it is to become exactly what we once despised. One night, finally, I sat down and wrote a response. It was not long, it was not emotional. It was simple, direct, true. Mother Veronica, I received your letter, and I thank you for your words. I cannot say I forgive, because forgiveness is something beyond me, but I can say I understand. I understand that you are human, that you made mistakes, and that you are paying for your mistakes. I hope that when your sentence ends, you find a way back, not to power or authority, but to truth and to God, because in the end, that is all that really matters. May God bless you, Sister Helena. I sent the letter and felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was not about her. It was about me, about releasing the weight I still carried, about moving forward, not with anger, but with peace. 2 years later, the convent was unrecognizable. The renovations had been completed. The vegetable garden was flourishing. The nuns were united. And me, I was at peace. Peace with my past, peace with my present, peace with my future. On a spring morning, as I watered the flowers that Sister Beatrice and I had planted, she came to me with a wide smile. Sister Helena, I have news. The diocese is going to create a permanent fund to help elderly religious people who have nowhere to go. And guess the name? The Sister Helena Fund. Tears filled my eyes, not of sadness, but of gratitude, of fulfillment, of knowing that my pain was not in vain, that it served a greater purpose, that it would save others from going through what I went through. It does not need to have my name, I said, wiping away tears. Yes, it does, replied Sister Beatrice firmly, because you taught us that courage has a name, that justice has a face, that truth has a voice, and these things need to be remembered, always. And then I understood. It was not about me. It never was. It was about something bigger. It was about planting seeds of justice that would grow for generations. It was about transforming pain into purpose, suffering into hope, silence into voice. As the sun set over the convent, painting the sky orange and gold, I looked around and felt gratitude, not for what I had lost, but for what I had found. Strength I did not know I had, courage I did not know I possessed, and a voice that for 50 years had been silenced, but that now echoed not just for me, but for all who still do not have the courage to speak. Because truth is not just liberating, it is transformative. And when we have the courage to tell it, when we have the strength to defend it, when we refuse to silence it, it changes not only our lives, but the world around us. And this is my story, the story of a nun who was discarded, who was silenced, who was rejected, but who refused to accept injustice, who fought for the truth, and who won, not because she was special, not because she was stronger, but because she believed that truth is worth it, always worth it. And you, have you gone through a situation of injustice and did not have the courage to speak? Have you witnessed someone abusing authority and remained silent? Comment below, courage or silence. I want to know your opinion. And if this story touched you, leave your like and share it so that more people know the power of not remaining silent in the face of injustice. Until the next story.